Amen.
We want to say welcome to the second day of the TRC thematic hearings for women here at the Centennial Pavilion. This morning, to officially begin the program, let us all stand to observe a few moments of silent meditation. Shall we stand? Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Raise your right hand. Put it left.
What am I sweating? This one,
Yeah, right hand.
why am I sweating?
For the presentation you made, that is true.
For the presentation, I believe in it, but I collected information from other places.
Yes, to authenticate what you represent.
But I believe in it. Okay.
So the right hand. Left hand.
Let me see where the Bible.
Bible. This is Bible.
Okay.
I,
Cyra Konah Gallow,
do solemnly promise
do solemnly promise that my presentation I have come to make before the TRC of Liberia. I believe in it and it's the truth. Nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We want to welcome you, and in the same vein, thank you very much, Madam Witness, for honoring our invitation to and share women's perspectives of the conflict, their role, to an extent the impact, as well as recommendations for the future on how our society can be a secure place for all, and more specifically how women's rights can be protected. These are thematic hearings meant to give members of our society, and most especially women, whose focus is today's hearings, an opportunity to come forward and discuss the issues emerging out of the conflict as related to women. Now that the conflict is over, we are looking towards sustaining the current peace and development. So we say thank you for coming and welcome once more. I will introduce commissioners here present. At the end on my right is Commissioner Sheikh Kafuma Konah. Next to him is Commissioner Umu Sila. On my left is Commissioner Massa Washington, and then Commissioner John Stewart. I am Jerome Voidia. The podium is all yours. You could use the podium by standing, or you could remain seated and make your presentation. We'd like you to start by saying a little bit.
Singing?
Saying a little bit about yourself, who you are in civil society, your relationship with women's organization. If there is a group or institution you represent, you can talk about that before you go into the substance of your presentation. Thank you very much and welcome again.
Thank you for having me here this morning. My name is Cyra Konah Gallow. I'm the Executive Director of the Women NGO Secretariat of Liberia. Excuse me. It's a network organization that work in different sectors in Liberia. Our mandate is to promote and defend the interests of women in Liberia. I bring you warm greetings from the Women NGO Secretariat of Liberia, especially the board chairperson and other members. I am delighted to be here for these thematic hearings on women and hope it is not too late for such hearings. Liberia is a country emerging from 14 years of brutal civil crisis. The crisis in itself witnessed some of the worst forms of human rights violation. Women and children were the most vulnerable of the victims of the Liberian crisis. Rape became a widespread phenomenon in Liberia during the years of civil crisis. Rape is reputed to be one of the worst human rights violations in Liberia. In addition to rape, women, especially young women, were adopted and used as domestic slaves and wives of fighters of all warring factions. This increased the vices of early childhood, pregnancy, unprepared mothers who had children and do not have the resources to bring them up properly. Moreover, due to the high incidence of rape, the spread of HIV and AIDS has been described in Liberia as a looming catastrophe waiting to happen. These facts sum up to undermining the dignity of women in the society and thereby inhibit the utilization of their full potential for development in their families and their communities. Honorable Commissioners of the TRC, fellow citizens, I am excited again to be here to share views and aspirations of the Women NGO Secretariat, recognizing that this process is one mechanism that can adequately reflect women in their sufficient roles and issues. Most importantly, presents a window of opportunity for women to effect social, economic, and political changes for the good of our dear country. The theme for this thematic and institutional hearing is confronting our difficult past for a better future. Therefore, in this paper, I attempt to capture the bitter experiences of women during the war and the importance of women inclusion in this process. I also attempt to point out areas where we must review to harness as means of realizing a better future. Women war experiences. Women and girls were targets during the war. They experienced some of the worst forms of atrocities and human rights violations committed during the Civil War in the form of rape, sexual slavery, torture, forced to commit insults, and many, including pregnant women, were even killed and their guts ripped open. Even though the conflict has ended, for very many Liberian women and girls, there is still strong evidence that the violence they experienced during the war still continues in this time of peace. One study carried out by the Ministry of Gender and Development points out in 10 of the 15 counties revealed that out of the total of 1,628 women interviewed, 90.8% of the sample were subjected to one or multiple acts of abuses or sexual violence. 75% were raped, most of them gang rape. 25% of GBV survivors has objects such as cone, stick, wood, barrel of a gun, rock, cassava root, flashlight, batteries, you name it, brutally penetrated into the vagina or anus. As a result of the above atrocity, 15.5% and 8.5% of the survivors suffered fistula, whereas many did not survive. 16.8% of the women became pregnant after they have been raped. On the other hand, women, as much as they were the most victims, also perpetrated violence. During the civil conflict, some women supported various warring groups, serving as spies, transporting arms and ammunition, serving in the command structures, and engaging in active combat. I would like for us to look at women inclusion. Many women organizations have emerged, but the needed support to further their vision are yet limited. In spite of this, the women and women groups have been proactive in their own way and have continued to raise public awareness around women's rights and related issues. Women in Peace Building Network, along with other groups, organize campaigns and sit-in actions against the war. Today, Liberian women have a success story as peace negotiators and mediators. The Association of Female Lawyers is providing legal clinic and legal services for women in succeeding. This group also advocates for the rights of women. The Liberian Women Media Action Committee Network has been a sensitization campaign using media as a core of its program on women's rights issues and work with women on the TRC process, producing 42 witnesses, including 5 female ex-fighters. A little over 63 women submitted to the TRC. The WOMAC worked in 8 counties, mobilizing over 200 women at a time. The Security for Women through Advocacy Coalition, Women NGO Secretariat Liberia, and other partners have initiated engagement with the government and grassroots communities to ensure a security sector inclusive of women. Women are also engaged in activities to ensure their full participation in the ongoing processes such as the Poverty Reduction Strategy Governance Commission and so on. Increasing women's participation in the post-conflict reconstruction of Liberia would require consolidated effort towards the goal of national recovery and renewal. It is critical to underscore also that promoting the objectives of the TRC to promote peace, unity, security, reconciliation, gender justice would demand the qualitative participation of women. The TRC was inducted in early 2006, and Liberians expect to take advantage of this process to access justice by providing testimonies, interacting with its commissioners for a just and law-abiding society. So far, the process has been able to provide an opportunity for Liberians to tell the stories with the hope of finding lasting peace and unity. As women, we stand ready to support this process, though considering the fact that we have strong desire and passion for a better Liberia where our children can grow up as decent men and women. I'd like to repeat that we bore the brunt of the war, but also we were able to end the war. We can still do it again. This is important again because this process holds one of the keys to a Liberian society where the respect for the rule of law and humanity can be defended or disregarded. I want us to look at some of the gaps in the TRC process. We cannot boast of women being key players in the TRC process. As an umbrella organization, Wangosa has worked in a very small way with the TRC in developing gender policies. Both institutions do not have an agreement to promote women's agenda in the process. We see this as an important gap that needs to be addressed. The apparent lack of mechanism to mainstream the process at community level requires serious consideration. There is a lack of free flow of information to women about the TRC activities, and we see this as a hindrance to women. For instance, we cannot confirm information that the TRC is drafting a policy document on reparation. I would therefore recommend that Wangosa and TRC form an agreement on the handling of women issues during this process, which will address the above concerns. According to the information from the Liberia Women Media Committee Network, a member organization, Security for Women Witnesses is an issue that should be considered in a post-TRC context, in addition to promoting community reconciliation. The 14 years war in Liberia took enormous toll on the lives of Liberian women, children, and men. Thousands of Liberians were victims of killings, rape, and sexual assault, adoption, torture, forced labor, forced recruitment into fighting forces, and displacement. As a means of compensating for the suffering brought by the war, we expect to enter the next phase of this process, which is reparation. What kind of reparations are we talking about? How will we determine who will get what percentage and where? What are the facilities that are available? May I also suggest that in line with the principles and guidance on the rights to remedy and being aware of the judging challenge posed by reparation, that women form a core component of the Technical Drafting Committee on Reparation. There was no public knowledge about the witness selection process. Therefore, we hope to see provisions for public knowledge on the selection for reparation. In my concluding statement, I want to ask a question that has been on my mind since the TRC process started. Do we as Liberians have agreed to select the TRC process over War Crime Tribunal? This was done at the Accra Peace Talks. Can there be true reconciliation without justice? A question for us as Liberians to take on is, it is my hope that key perpetrators, framers, those who provided financial aid and other direct support to the 14-year violent conflict will testify honestly to the Liberian people and all those who suffered during the war. I thank you. Yeah.